You're sitting inside a metal tube, sipping a drink, casually watching the clouds below. For you, it feels entirely normal. But right at the bottom of the window, there is a tiny hole, smaller than a pencil tip, completely unsealed. It looks like a manufacturing flaw or a leak. But without this specific opening, the window would be under far more stress than it was ever designed to handle. At 10,000 meters, higher than the peak of Mount Everest, the environment outside is lethal. The temperature is minus 60 degrees Celsius, and the air pressure is nearly non-existent. If you were exposed to the outside air directly, you would lose consciousness in 12 seconds. You would be dead in minutes. To keep you alive, the cabin is pumped full of high-pressure air. This creates a massive force pushing outward against the fuselage, trying to blow the plane apart from the inside. That brings us to the paradox. Engineers deliberately punched a hole through the only barrier protecting you from the vacuum outside. To see why that was necessary, we have to look at the moment aviation history nearly ended in disaster. In the early 1950s, the de Havilland Comet became the world's first commercial passenger jet. It allowed passengers to travel at high altitudes in pressurized comfort for the first time. But in 1954, two comets disintegrated mid-air. They both vanished over the Mediterranean Sea without warning. Investigators built a water tank large enough to hold an entire fuselage, simulating thousands of flight cycles by rapidly pressurizing and depressurizing the cabin. They found that the sharp corners of the square windows were creating metal fatigue, microscopic cracks that grew every time the cabin expanded and contracted. Eventually, the fuselage couldn't handle the strain and tore itself apart. Learning to manage these invisible forces became a mandatory standard for every commercial aircraft designed after the comet. A modern airplane window is a three-layer sandwich of acrylic and air. The thick outer pane handles the structural load from the atmosphere. The thin inner pane is just a scratch guard. Between them is the middle pane containing the bleed hole. If the middle and outer panes were both completely airtight, the pressure between them would fluctuate unpredictably as the plane climbed. Engineers wouldn't know which pane was actually doing the work. Imagine inflating a balloon inside a sealed glass jar. The expanding balloon pushes hard against the glass walls, putting the structure under tension. If you poke a pinhole in the lid, the trapped air escapes. The pressure equalizes, relaxing the outward strain. The bleed hole does the same for your window. It lets cabin pressure flow through the middle pane, equalizing the gap with the outside air. This forces the outer pane to take 100% of the load by design. This setup removes the structural uncertainty that destroyed the early jets. One pane does the heavy lifting, and it does so predictably. But the hole has a second job that has nothing to do with physics and everything to do with the temperature outside. Without an escape route, the moisture trapped between those panes would freeze instantly, completely blocking your view. The hole acts as a defroster, allowing moisture to vent out of the gap before it can fog up the glass. When you look out and see frost at altitude, it is actually forming on the exterior surface of the outer pane, a part of the window you can't even touch. The diameter of this hole is precise, calculated down to the millimeter, based on the specific volume and cruising altitude of the aircraft. It is an efficient design, one microscopic hole that manages two distinct safety roles without any mechanical complexity. Look for that hole the next time you fly. It's a small detail revealing how much thought goes into the objects we take for granted. Some of the most important safety features are these tiny, overlooked details that you've looked at a dozen times without noticing. While the windows use a hole to manage pressure, the wings do something even more extreme. They are actually engineered to bend upward by several meters to keep them from shattering under the wind. To see how a structure that feels like solid metal can flex like a plastic ruler and still hold the plane in the air, you have to look at the wings.